Richard.
Hello everybody, greetings from sunny South Africa. We're sitting on the steps outside the main library of Stellenbosch University. It is the 20th of March 2019. It is also, by the way, the birthday of the Roman poet Ovid and a very special little girl named Juliet. And it's approximately 1300 hours. Who are we and why are we here? We're all students and staff members from the Department of Ancient Studies at Stellenbosch University, where we specialize in ancient Greek, Latin, Biblical, Hebrew and ancient cultures. Today we are participating in the international reading of Homer's Iliad as part of the Festival Européen Latin Grec. The translation of the Iliad which we'll be reading is a very special one. It's not only very fresh and new, it was published in 2012 only, but it is also the only Southern African translation of Homer's great first epic. To tell you more, we are joined by the translator, Richard Whittaker. Richard studied classics at the universities of Witwatersrand, Oxford, St Andrews, and after lecturing for many years at a number of South African universities, he is now Emeritus Professor at the University of Cape Town. After telling us a little bit about his translation of Homer's Iliad, he will open the reading for us with Book 1, and after that we will also be reading Book 3. Thank you, Richard.
Yes, I was asked to just say a few words about the Iliad in general for those who are not familiar with it. It's of course the epic poem attributed to Homer from maybe about 2,500, 600 years ago. Nobody knows exactly when it was composed. And it of course tells the story of the fighting at Troy, the Trojan War, which lasted for 10 years, where the Greeks, whom Homer doesn't call Greeks but Achaeans, besieged the town and the Trojans defended. What I think is remarkable about the Odyssey is, although it's the first work of Western literature, it's a remarkably sophisticated poem. It doesn't try to tell the whole story of the Trojan War. It concentrates just on 30 days in the final year, 10th year of the war at Troy, and yet it chooses a psychological theme to concentrate on, anger. It's the first word of the poem, men, and I'll say it to you in Greek just now. So anger is the first word, and the anger of the greatest hero of the Achaeans, Achilles, is the major theme of the poem, and that motivates everything. But Homer manages to build around that a kind of symbolic narrative which stands for the earlier stages of the war. So we learn a lot about what's happened in the 9 years before, and we get constant hints of what's going to happen at the end. That Achilles will die, Hector, great Trojan hero, dies in the course of the time. And we know that once Hector is dead, Troy is doomed, the city is going to be conquered. So, say in a very sophisticated way, Homer manages to suggest the whole Trojan War, although he concentrates just on that brief period. Okay, my translation. I taught the Iliad for many years, always had to use Anglo-American translations. And I just felt that there was a lot in the Iliad and in the Odyssey, which I'm now translated to, that spoke directly to South Africans. So things like bride pricing cattle, the fact that this is actually a much smaller scale society than is suggested by Anglo-American translations, with their kings and princes and palaces and cities. To me, the world of Homer is much more like a tribal world, the world of clans. So I use words like chief, Induna, Nkosi, Impis, loan words in English, Donga, Kloof, I don't think Klipspringer gets in there. I got Levite in one place because we get it in Greyton where I live. So I tried to create an Iliad and an Odyssey that kind of took a South African context into account. I think that's enough by way of introduction. Should I start off with the reading?
Actually, here comes our Rhapsode staff.
Good. I'll wait for the Rhapsode stuff.
Yay! Richard's our Rhapsode.
Passing of the stuff. Okay, I'll recite the opening lines in ancient Greek, something like, perhaps it might have sounded 2,500 years ago. Menen aide tea peleia jo Achilleos, ulomenen emuria kaios algieteke, palas diftimus psychas aidi proiapsen heroon, autus de veloria tuke kunesin oionoisi de daita, dios de telea to bule, exude ta prota diaste tenerisante, Atreides, Tuanax Andro, Dios Achilleos. Okay, so that's the the beginning. Thank you. And now the version in English. Okay, so Iliad, Book 1. Muse, sing the rage of Peleus, son Achilles, deadly rage that brought the Achaeans endless pain, that hurled down to Hades many strong souls of heroes and made their bodies meat for dogs and vultures, fulfilling the plan of Zeus ever since the day that those two quarreled in Corsi Agamemnon and godlike Achilles. Which god made them clash in strife? The son of Zeus and Leto. Angry with the chief, he drove plague on the Impies. People died because Atreus' son dishonored the priest, Chryses. He came to the Achaean ships to free his daughter, offering rich ransom, holding in his hands Apollo's ribbons around a golden staff, and begged the Achaeans, above all Atreus' two sons, their leaders. Sons of Atreus, all well-grieved Achaeans, may the Olympian gods grant that you sack the town of Priam and come safely home. Take this ransom and release my daughter. Respect Apollo the archer, Zeus' son. The other Achaeans shouted their assent. He should respect the priest and take the splendid ransom. This failed to please the heart of Agamemnon. He harshly dismissed Chryses, saying roughly, Kechla, don't let me find you hanging around the ship, now or in the future. The god's staff and ribbons won't protect you. I will not release her. Before that, she'll grow old in my home in Argos, far from her native land, working the loom and servicing my bed. Go, don't annoy me, and put yourself in danger. He spoke. The old man trembled and obeyed. He left in silence beside the roaring sea. Far away, the Kechla prayed to Nkosi Apollo, son of fair-haired Leto. Hear me, god of the silver bow, powerful lord of Chryse, sacred killer, Tenedos, mouse god. If ever I built a lovely shrine for you, if ever I burned fat thigh bones of goats or bulls, then grant my prayer. Make your shafts punish the Achaeans for my tears.
It is you.
He spoke in prayer, Phoebus Apollo heard. He sped from Olympus' peak, hard angry, bow and covered quiver on his shoulders, arrows clattering in his fury as he moved. He came on like night. Sitting far from the ships, he let the shaft fly. His silver bow clanged terribly. First he attacked the mules and nimble dogs, then launched a barbed arrow at the men and struck. Corpse after corpse burned on the funeral pyre. For 9 days the gods' shafts struck the Impies. On the 10th, Achilles summoned an Indaba. The goddess Hera gave him the idea, caring for the Achaeans, since she saw them die. When they had gathered at the Indaba, standing up, quick-footed Achilles said, Son of Atreus, now we shall be driven home again to escape death, if plague and war together beat the Achaeans down. But come, let's find some priest, Sangoma, or dream interpreter. Dreams come from Zeus, to tell us why Apollo rages so. If he finds fault with prayer or sacrifice, perhaps, appeased with smoke of lambs and goats, he'll be willing to protect us from the plague. So saying, he sat down. Then up stood Calchas, Thestor's son, best of all Sangomas, who knew the present, future and the past. He guided the Achaean ships to Troy by the prophetic skill Apollo gave him. Showing his good intention, he spoke out. Achilles, loved by Zeus, you asked me to interpret the anger of Apollo. I shall speak, but you must swear an oath that you'll protect me, both by word and deed. I think someone will be angry, the great ruler of the Achaeans, whom all obey. A chief angry with a lesser man is strong, even if he checks his fury for a day. His heart stays angry till he gets his way. Think then if you will keep me safe.
Quick Achilles said to him in answer, Be brave, tell us the god's will if you know it. For by Apollo, whom you pray to, Calchas, when you reveal the intention of the god, no Achaean, so long as I live and breathe, will lay his heavy hands on you beside the hollow ships, not even Agamemnon, who now boasts he is the Achaeans' best. Taking heart, the good Sangoma said, He finds no fault with prayer or sacrifice. Agamemnon showed his priest dishonor. He did not release the daughter, took no ransom, and so the archer has brought pain and will bring more. He'll not protect us from the plague before the chief gives back the girl, unbought, unransomed, and makes holy sacrifice at Chryse. Then he may hear and be appeased. So saying, he sat down. Then up stood Atreus' son, paramount Agamemnon, enraged, his dark heart fit to burst with fury, eyes glinting like twin flames. He said, first with an evil look at Calchas, Prophet of evil, never any help to me. You love to prophesy bad things, but not once say or do a thing that's good. Now you declare the god's will to the Achaeans. The archer brings disaster on them, because I'd not take ransom for the girl, Chryses, whom I wish to keep at home. Yes, I prefer her to Clytemnestra, my wedded wife. She's no way her inferior in looks or stature, intelligence or skill. Still, I shall give her back, if that is best. I want the army to live on, not die. But you must find me another prize, so I alone don't go without. That would be wrong. You all see my prize is going elsewhere. Answering him, quick-footed Achilles said, Glorious son of Atreus, greediest of men, where must the Achaeans find this prize? We don't know of any public treasure. The spoils we won from towns we sacked have been divided. They can't be taken back. Return her to the god. We Achaeans will pay you 3-4 times as much if Zeus lets us take the well-walled town of Troy.
Thanks, Jess. Sure. Let me find my book. Then, in answer, strong Agamemnon said, You're a great man, Achilles, but don't try to cheat or to get round me. You will not succeed. You want to keep your prize, but I must sit without mine. Is that why I must give her back? The Achaeans may reward me with a prize appropriate to satisfy my heart. But if they don't, then I shall take your prize, or Aias's, or come and take Odysseus's, and he'll be angry, the man to whom I come. But he shall think about it afterwards. For now, pull a black ship down to the bright sea, quickly gather oarsmen, load the sacrifice, and bring on board the lovely Chryseis. One man, a counselor, must take command. Aias, Idomeneus, godlike Odysseus, or you, son of Peleus, vehement man, so we can sacrifice and please the archer. Scowling at him, quick-footed Achilles said, Have you no shame at all, you crook? Why should any Achaean want to follow you overseas or go to war for you? It was no Trojan spearmen that brought me here to fight, nor have I any quarrel with them. They did not steal my cows or horses or raise my crops in fertile Phthia. Nurse of men, For in between lie many miles of shadowy mountain and echoing sea. Shameless man, we came here to please you, to make the Trojans pay back you and Menelaus, you dog. But do you care or even notice? And now you threaten to remove the prize I sweated for, that sons of the Achaeans gave me. When we Achaeans sack some prosperous Trojan town, my prize is always less than yours. My hands bear the brunt of raging war, but when spoils are divided from battle with some small thing of my own. Now I'm off to Pythia. Far better to sail home in the ships than stay, dishonored, and pile up wealth and prosperity for you. Number 5.
Inkosi Agamemnon answered him, "Run away then, if that is what you want. Don't stay here for my sake. Others will honor me. Above all, Zeus the counselor. I hate you more than any other chief. Your mind always on battle, strife and war. Yes, you are strong, but made strong by the gods. Go home with your ships and comrades. Rule the Myrmidons. I don't give a damn. I don't care if you are angry, but I swear, as Apollo takes Chryseis from me, and I return her with my ship and comrades, I shall come in person to your hut and take Chryseis, your prize, so you may know how much more powerful I am than you, and others dread to make themselves my equal." He spoke. Anguish seized the son of Peleus, the heart in his shaggy chest divided, whether to draw his sharp sword from its sheath, rout the rest and kill the son of Atreus, or to restrain his heart and check his anger. As he pondered this in his heart and mind, and as he drew his sword, Athena came from heaven. White-armed Hera sent her, concerned for, loving both men equally. Standing behind, seen by him and no one else, she seized the son of Peleus by his blonde hair. Amazed, Achilles whirled around at once, and knew Athena by the fearful brightness of her eyes. He spoke winged words to her. "Child of Zeus, why have you come? To witness Agamemnon's insults? But I tell you this, and I think it will come true. He'll pay for this arrogant behavior with his life." Athena, great-eyed goddess, answered him, "I came from heaven to stop your anger, if you listen. The white-armed goddess Hera sent me, concerned for, loving you both equally. Come, don't fight or draw your sword. Abuse him just with words, and say how it will be. But I tell you this, be sure it will come true. Soon you will get 3 times as many gifts because of his insults. Hear us and hold back."
Answering her, quick-footed Achilles said, "Goddess, a man must hear you too, however angry he may be. That way is best. If you obey the gods hear you." He spoke, and then with heavy hand he shoved the sword into its sheath. In obedience to Athene, she went back to Olympus, to Zeus's home, and joined the other gods. Peleus' son did not give up his rage, but spoke these dreadful words to Atreus' son. "Dog-eyed drunkard with an impala's heart, when did you arm together with the impish for war, or join the champions in ambush? You did not dare, that seemed like death to you. Better to skulk about the Achaean camp and take the prize of any who opposed you. Chief who eats his people, ruler over weaklings. Otherwise this was your last insult. But I tell you this, and swear an oath to it, by this scepter, that will no longer leave or shoot or sprout since men first lopped it in the mountains, and stripped its bark and leaves with bronze. Now lawgivers among the sons of Achaeans, who keep the laws from Zeus carry it, a mighty thing to swear by. Great longing for Achilles will strike the sons of the Achaeans. Anguished, you'll be helpless to protect them when many fall at murderous Hector's hands. You'll gnaw your hearts, angry that you failed to honor the best of the Achaeans." Peleus' son spoke, flung the gold-studded scepter to the ground, and then sat down, while Agamemnon raged at him. Up rose Nestor, the fluent orator from Pylos. Speech flowed, sweet as honey, from his tongue. In his lifetime, 2 mortal generations had passed on, born and raised before in holy Pylos, and now he ruled the 3rd. Showing his good intention, he spoke out.
Truly, this must grieve the Achaean land, but bring joy to Priam and Priam's sons. The hearts of all Trojans must rejoice to know that there is strife between you two, best Achaean counselors and warriors. Listen to me, you are both my juniors. I once mixed with better men than you, who do not disregard me. I never saw such men before, nor ever will again. Leaders of men like Periphas, Dreas, Caneus, Exadius, godlike Polyphemus, Argaeus' son, Theseus, like a god. They were the mightiest men on earth, the mightiest, who fought against the mightiest, mountain centaurs, and utterly destroyed them. Coming from Pelos, I joined up with these men, summoned from a great land, from a distant land. I fought without assistance, but no man, as men are now, could fight against the centaurs. Those men heard and trusted my advice, so you too trust me. It will be for the best. Great though you are, do not take the girl. Leave his prize that the sons of Achaeans gave. You, son of Peleus, do not quarrel with a chief, for a scepter-bearing chief has greater honor. His praises come from Zeus. You are stronger, your mother was a goddess, but ruling over men, he is more powerful. Son of Atreus, curb your anger, and I beg Achilles to let go his rage. He is still our great Achaean Bomer in grim war. Then, in answer, strong Agamemnon said, "Yes, old man, every word you say is right. But this man thinks he is above us all. He wants to rule us all, govern us all, give all their orders, though no one will obey. Yes, the gods made him a spearman, but does that give him the right to ban the insults?"
Godlike Achilles interrupted him. "Then I should be called a useless coward if I gave way to everything you said. Give your commands to others. Do not try to order me. From now on I won't obey. But take to heart this other thing I say. I shall not fight you for the girl, not you or any other. You all gave her, now you take her away. But if you touch one single other thing of mine beside my ship, against my will, come, just you try. Then these men here will see your black blood flow at once around my spear." They'd quarreled with violent words. Now they rose and broke up the Achaean Indaba by the ships. The son of Peleus went to his ships and hut with Menoetius' son and with his comrades, while Atreus' son launched a quick ship on the sea, chose 20 oarsmen, stowed the sacrifice, then went and brought the lovely Chryses on board. Cunning Odysseus went as captain. These men embarked and sailed the watery ways. Then Atreus' son told the impis to purify themselves. They washed, threw the dirt into the sea, then made perfect sacrifice to Apollo of bulls and goats beside the barren sea. The savory smell whirled skyward in the smoke. While they did this around the camp, Agamemnon made good his angry threat against Achilles and called Talbios and Eurybates, 2 active men of his, who were his heralds. "Go to the hut of Peleus' son, Achilles. Take Briseis by the hand and lead her here. If he refuses, I shall come in person with more men, and it will be worse for him." So saying, he sent them with his strong command. They went unwillingly beside the barren sea and reached the Myrmidons' huts and ships. They found him sitting by his black ship and hut. Achilles saw them without joy.
Feeling afraid, respectful of the chief, they stood there and did not say a word. But he knew in his heart and said to them, "Welcome, heralds, messengers of Zeus and men. Come closer, you are not to blame, but Agamemnon who sent you here for Briseis, my god. But come, god-horned Patroclus, bring the girl and give her to me. You be my witnesses before the blessed gods and mortal men, and that cruel king, if ever need arises for me to ward off grim destruction from the rest. He's mad, mind deranged, he does not know how to look both back and forward, so the Iconians may fight safely by the ships." He spoke. Patroclus obeyed his friend, brought lovely Briseis from the hut and gave her to them. They went back to the Iconian ship, the woman unwillingly by their side. In tears, Achilles went and sat far from his comrades, staring across the endless ocean, stretching out his arms and praying to his mother. Mother, since you bore me to a short life, Olympian Zeus should have increased my praises, but he has honored me not at all. For Atreus' son, wide-ruling Agamemnon, has dishonored me, stolen and kept my prize. He spoke, weeping. His lady mother heard, seated in the deep sea with her father. Rising quickly from the grey sea like a mist, she came and sat before him as he wept, stroked him with her hand and spoke to him by name. Child, why do you cry? What pain is in your heart? Speak, do not hide it, so we both may know. Groaning deeply, quick-footed Achilles said, You know already, why tell one who knows? We attacked Thebe, Eetion's holy town, and sacked it, bringing all the spoils here, dividing them out fairly. The Iconian chose lovely Chryseis for Atreus' son.
But Chryses, archer Apollo's priest, came to the ships of the Achaeans, sheathed in bronze to free his daughter, offering a rich ransom, holding in his hand Apollo's ribbons around a golden staff, and begged the Achaeans, above all, Atreus' 2 sons, their leaders. The other Achaeans shouted their assent. He should respect the priest and take the splendid ransom. This failed to please the heart of Agamemnon. He harshly dismissed Chryses, speaking roughly. Angry, the Kala went away. Apollo, who loved him greatly, heard his prayer and shot an evil arrow at the Achaeans. Men died in droves as Apollo's shafts rained down all through the brood Achaean camp. Alsangoma, knowing the archer's will, spoke out. I said at once we should appease the god, but rage seized the son of Atreus. He leapt up and made a threatening speech that has come true. For the bright-eyed Achaeans shipped Chryses back to Chrysaor and took gifts for the Incoursi god. But just now, heralds coming to my hut took Brises, whom the Achaeans gave to me. If you can, protect your son. Go to Olympus, to Zeus, and beseech him by anything you ever did or said to please his heart. For often in my father's home I heard you boast, saying that you alone saved the cloudy son of Kronos from shameful ruin, that time other Olympian gods, Pallas Athene, Hera, and Poseidon wished to chain him. You came to him, goddess, and rescued him by calling to Olympus the 100-hander, whom the gods call Briareus. But all men Aigaon, since he was greater than his father, glorying in his strength, he squatted next to Zeus, and, afraid, he blessed gods unbound him. Sit by Zeus now, remind him of all this. If he's willing, beg him to help the Trojans and pin the Achaeans back against the sea, dying so that they have enjoyment of their chief, and Agamemnon comes to know his folly, that he dishonored the best of the Achaeans.
Next.
I'll read.
Lunette.
Oh, Lynette's not here, so Richard can read.
Who takes over next?
Michael.
At what line?
What line?
4, 6.
Okay. So Kaya.
After the gossip page.
Shedding tears, Thetis answered him, My child, why did your poor mother raise you? I wish that you could sit here without pain or tears, since your life will not be long, but very short. Yet now you must not only die soon, but suffer much. That is the evil fate to which I bore you. But I'll go to snowy Olympus and beg Zeus, perhaps he'll listen. But you sit here beside the ships and nurse your rage at the Achaeans. Keep well clear of war. For Zeus has gone to Ocean, to the noble Ethiopians, for a feast, and all the gods went with him. In 12 days they'll come back to Olympus, and then I'll go to Zeus's home, beseech him, and hope that he will listen. So saying, she went away and left him there, heart angered, because because they took the woman by force against his will. But Odysseus came to Chryse with the holy sacrifice. When they had entered the deep harbour, they furled the sails and stowed them in the ship, then lowered the mast quickly by the forestays to its crutch and rowed the ship to anchorage. They threw out the anchors and secured the stern. They disembarked onto the seashore and brought out the sacrifice for Apollo. Chryseis stepped from the ocean-going ship. Bringing her to the altar, Odysseus put her in her father's arms and said, "Chryses, Nkosi Agamemnon sent me to bring your child and make holy sacrifice on our behalf to appease Apollo, who causes the Achaeans tears and pain." So saying, he put her in his arms. He took his child with joy. Then they set the holy sacrifice in order round the altar, washed their hands and took up barley grains. Raising his arms, Chryses prayed out loud, "Hear me, God of the silver bow, powerful Lord of Chryse, sacred killer Tenedos. You heard my prayer before and honored me by afflicting the Achaean impes. So now too grant what I desire, remove this ghastly plague from the Achaeans."
He spoke in prayer, for it was Apollo heard. When they had prayed and sprinkled the barley grains, they drew each beast's head back, killed, flayed them, cut out the thigh bones, wrapped them in 2 folds of fat, and placed raw meat above them. The old man burned these and poured sparkling wine above. The young men clashed their 5-pronged forks. When they burned the thighs and tasted the entrails, they chopped the meat, spitted it on skewers, fried the flesh, and drew it off the fire. Then, when the work was done, the feast prepared, they ate, and every man had his fair share. When their need for food and drink was satisfied, the young men filled mixing bowls brimful and drew off ritual wine into their cups. All day the Achaeans appeased the god with dance and music, singing fine praises of Apollo that the god rejoiced to hear. When the sun went down and darkness came, they slept beside the stern cables of their ship. But when early rose-fingered dawn appeared, they set sail for the broad Achaean camp, where the following wind sent them by Apollo. They raised the mast, spreading the white sails that filled out in the breeze. And the bright bow wave rippled loudly as she went, flying on her way, cutting through the waves. Then, when they reached the broad Achaean camp, they pulled the black ship up onto the land, high upon the beach, with props to hold it, scattered each man to his hut and ships. But quick Achilles, Peleus' god-born son, nursed his rage beside the speedy ships. He never once went to the Indaba where men win praise, nor off to fight, but sat and ate out his heart, yet longed for battle's roar. When the 12th dawn from that day arrived, the everlasting gods came back to Olympus, all of them. Zeus was in the lead. Thetis did as her son had asked. She rose early from the waves and went to Olympus in the sky.
She found Cronos' son sitting alone on the highest peak of many-ridged Olympus. She sat before him, left arm around his knees, and her right hand stretched up to his chin, and begged Nkosi Zeus, the son of Cronos, "Father Zeus, if ever among the gods I helped you by word or deed, then grant my wish. Honor my son, shortest lived of all men, whom just now Nkosi Agamemnon has dishonored. He stole and kept his prize, but you honor him, Olympian Zeus. Let the Trojans win until the Achaeans honor my son and give him recompense." She spoke. Cloudy Zeus did not reply, but sat in silence. Thetis kept her arm around his knees and said, a second time, "Nod your head. Give me your guarantee or refuse. You need not fear, so that I know I am less honored than any other god." Deeply worried, Cloudy Zeus replied, "Here's trouble. You'll set me at loggerheads with Hera. She'll scold me with stinging words. As it is, she always fights with me among the gods. She says I help the Trojans. But you must go, and don't let Hera see you. Leave all of this to me and I will do it. Come, I'll nod my head for you to see. My greatest guarantee for all the gods.
I nod my assent, it cannot be falsified, reversed, left unfulfilled. Kronos' son spoke and nodded his dark brow. The god's ambrosial locks waved about his immortal head, and great Olympus shook. Having made their plans, they parted. Thetis leaped into the deep sea from Olympus. Zeus went home, and all the gods stood up to greet their father. None dared stay seated when he came. All rose to welcome him. He sat down on his throne. But Hera had not failed to notice Thetis, daughter of the old man of the sea, talking with her husband.
At once she scolded Zeus, the son of Kronos. Devious god, what has been scheming with you? You love to go away from me and make your plans in secret. You can never bear to tell me freely what you have been thinking. The father of gods and men replied, Hera, do not expect to know all of my thoughts. That would be hard. Although you are my wife, whatever it is right for you to hear, no god or man will know before you. But as for plans, that I keep from the gods, don't ask. Don't cross-question me about them. The lady, slow-eyed Hera, answered him, Dread son of Kronos, what a thing to say. When did I ever ask or cross-question you? You happily make whatever plans you want. But now I suspect Thetis, daughter of the old man of the sea, has wandered around. She came here early, sat guaranteed Achilles' honor and many Achaean deaths beside the ships. Zeus, who gathers cloud, replied to her, How do you always guess? I can't get round you, but you won't get your way. You'll just displease me more, and that will be the worse for you. If it's as you say, well, that is what I want. Do what I tell you. Sit there and be quiet. No god will protect you if I come close and lay my mighty hands on you. He spoke, and slow-eyed Hera was afraid. Subduing her heart, she sat in silence. And all the gods in Zeus's home were troubled. Then the famous smith Hephaestus spoke, trying to placate his mother Hera. It will be awful, just unbearable, if the pair of you must quarrel over men and make the gods take sides. How can we enjoy our feast if the worst elements prevails? I advise my mother, what she knows already, to make it up with Zeus, so that our father, in his anger, will not disrupt the feast. If he so wished, the Olympian god of lightning could blast us from our seats. He has great power. So talk to him with gentle words. Then at once the Olympian will be kind to us. He spoke, then lifted to his feet and placed the two-handed cup in his mother's hands and said, Be upset, mother, but be brave, hold back. I would hate to see you beaten, you whom I love, and hurting be unable to defend you, for Zeus is hard to face. Once before, when I wanted to protect you, he seized me by the foot and flung me from his threshold. Falling all day until sunset came to the ground, half dead, on Lemnos and Scythian men received me where I found. He spoke, the god his white-armed Hera smiled and received the cup, still smiling from his hand. Then he drew sweet nectar from the mixing bowl, and starting from the left, poured for the gods. An endless laughter seized the blessed gods as they laughed, as they saw faces bustle through the hall. So all day long, until the sun went down, they feasted, and each one had his fair share. They listened to Apollo's lovely lyre and the antiphonal singing of the Muses. But when the sun's shining light had set, they went home, each to the house the famous crippled god of Hephaestus had built for him, with his skilled craftsmanship. Olympian Zeus went to the bed where he always slept, when sweet sleep overcame him, and Hera of the golden throne slipped by his side.
Yeah, so after book 1 we get book 2 where all these sides assemble and we get this huge catalogue of the Trojans and the Achaeans, and then we almost get the first battle, but things stopped short. That's at the beginning of book 3. When both sides had been marshalled by their leaders, the Trojans came on with loud cries, like cranes calling from the sky when they escape the endless winter storms, flying with loud cries toward the stream of ocean to attack and kill the pygmy warriors. And at dawn, the hateful battle starts. The Achaeans came on in silence, breathing force, their purpose firm to stand by one another. As when a south wind mists the mountain peaks, bad for the shepherd, like night for the thief, and a man can see no further than a stone's throw, so their feet kicked up the whirling dust, as they marched and quickly crossed the plain. But when they had come close to one another, Paris stepped out, the Trojans' champion, with panther skin, curved bow across his shoulders, and a sword. Brandishing 2 bronze-tipped assegais, he challenged the Achaeans' best to fight him in grim combat, man to man. When Menelaus, loved by Ares, saw him stride far out before the crowd, his heart rejoiced. As a lion finds a large kill, horned buck or wild goat, and gulps it in his hunger, though harried by quick dogs and vigorous young men, so Menelaus rejoiced as he laid eyes on Alexandros, believing now he'd punished the wrongdoer. At once he leapt from his chariot to the ground. But godlike Alexandros, seeing him appear among the champions, shrank back, heart-stricken in among his comrades, shunning death. As a man springs back, seeing a snake in a mountain kloof, limbs trembling, he retreats, his cheeks go deathly pale. So back into the Trojan mass shrank Alexandros, afraid of Atreus' son. Hector saw and scolded him with words of shame.
Evil, handsome, woman-crazy Paris, I wish you had not been born, or died single. That would have been much better than to be despised like this, scorned by your peers. The long-haired Achaeans must laugh to think we've chosen our best champion for his looks, while in his heart there's no force or strength. Was this the man who sailed the sea in ocean-going ships with trusted comrades and stole a lovely woman from a distant land, daughter-in-law of assegai-wielding men, a blight on your father, town, and people, bringing the enemy joy, shame on yourself? Why don't you face up to war like Menelaus? You took his wife. See what the husband's like. Your lyre, the gifts of Aphrodite, your looks and hair won't help you, sprawling in the dust. We Trojans are weak. You should have worn a coat of stones for all grief you've caused. Godlike Alexandros answered him, Hector, you're quite right, not wrong to scold me, but your heart is like a stubborn axe that cuts through the wooden beam when a shipwright chops it, the axe increasing the man's strength. So your heart's intention never flinches. Don't reproach me with gifts of Aphrodite. Never despise the great gifts that the gods give freely, although one would not choose them. But if you truly want me to do battle, then sit the Trojans and Achaeans down. Have me and Menelaus, loved by Ares, fight for Helen and all her goods. Whoever proves the better man and wins will take the woman home and all her goods. The rest must firmly swear an oath of friendship that you live on in Troy while they go back to Argos and Achaia with its women. He spoke. Hector was delighted with his speech. He went and with his spear pushed the Trojan impis back till all of them sat down. The Achaeans kept making him their target, aiming arrows and throwing stones at him, until Agamemnon called out loud, "Stop, you Achaean warriors, don't throw! Hector of the gleaming helmet wants to speak."
He spoke. Holding off from war, they soon fell silent. Hector spoke out to both sides. You Trojans and well-grieved Achaeans, Paris began this war. Now hear the words he says. He tells all the Trojans and Achaeans to lay their armor on the fertile earth, so he and Menelaus, loved by Ares, can fight it out for Helen and her goods. Whoever proves the better man and wins will take the woman home and all her goods. The rest must swear a trusty oath to friendship. So he spoke, but they were hushed in silence. Menelaus of the loud war cry spoke next. Hear me too, since this pain strikes my heart. I think this is the moment of decision for both sides. After all you've suffered through my quarrel, and Paris who began it. The man whose death and destiny is sure must die. The rest of you disperse at once. Bring 2 lambs, one white, the other black, for Earth and Sun. We'll bring a third for Zeus. And fetch strong Priam to ratify the oaths in person, since we cannot trust his sons, so none go wrong, destroying the oaths of Zeus. The minds of young men are unstable, but an elder man looks both back and forward, so what results is fair for either side. He spoke. The Trojans and Achaeans rejoiced, hoping they'd be rid of painful war. They pulled chariots back toward the front ranks, dismounted, took their armor off and laid it by, and very little ground showed in between. Then Hector sent 2 heralds to the town to quickly fetch the lambs and summon Priam, while strong Agamemnon told Talthybius to go to the hollow ships and bring 2 lambs. He and godlike Agamemnon ordered.
But Iris the messenger came to Helen, disguised as her husband's sister, whom Antenor's son, strong Helikion, married, Laodike, loveliest of Priam's daughters. She found Helen weaving a great double-layered cloth, showing all the trials that Trojans and Achaeans sheathed in bronze suffered for the sake at Ares' hands. Quick-footed Iris stood near and said, "Sister, come and see the amazing things done by Trojans and Achaeans sheathed in bronze. They made tear-stained war early on the plain, hungry for destructive battle. Now they sit in silence, without fighting. Leaning on their shields, long spears fixed on the ground, Paris and Menelaus, loved by Ares, will do with long assegais for you, and you'll be called the wife of him who wins. So be saying, the god implanted sweet desire for her former husband, children, and her town." Covered with a shining wrap, she rushed from her bedroom, letting bright tears fall. Not alone, 2 maidservants at her side, Clymene and Pythias' daughter, Iphre, and they soon reached the Scaean gates. There Priam's circle, Panphos, Phymiotes, Lampos, Clytios, and Hecataion, Ucalegon and Antenor, both wise men, elders of the people, sat near the gates. Being old now, they did not fight, but loved talking like cicadas perched, shrilling out their lily-like sounds in forest trees. Such were the Amakosi on the wall. As Helen came, catching sight of her, they whispered winged words to one another. Who can blame the Trojans and Achaeans for suffering so long for such a woman? She is terrible, like a goddess face to face, but still let her go home for all her beauty, not stay, a bane to us and our children.
So they spoke, but Priam called to Helen, "Come here, my child, and sit by me to see your former husband and your friends. I don't blame you. I blame the gods who brought this tear-stained war with the Achaeans. And tell me, who is that enormous man, that great, good Achaean, whoever he may be? Though there are others taller by a head, I never laid eyes on any man with such authority, fit to be a chief." Helen, godlike woman, answered him, "Dear father, I admire and respect you. I wish I died an evil death before I followed your son here, leaving home, kinsmen, my little child, my age group that I long for. That was not to be, so I exhaust myself with weeping. But to answer what you ask, that man is Agamemnon, Atreus' son. Good chief, strong fighter with the assegai, and brother-in-law to me, bitch that I am." She spoke. The Kechla said in admiration, "Happy son of Atreus, fated to be rich. How many Achaean men serve under you? I once went to Phrygia with its vineyards and saw hordes of Phrygian horsemen, impis of godlike Mygdon and of Atreus, encamped beside the river Sangarios. I had enlisted with them as an ally the day the manlike Amazons appeared, but even they were fewer than the Achaeans." Seeing Odysseus second, the Kechla asked, "Come, tell me, child, who might this man be? Shorter by a head than Agamemnon, he looks broader in the chest and shoulders. His armor lies upon the fertile earth, but like a ram he ranges through the ranks. Yes, He looks just like a thick fleeced ram marshalling a flock of snow-white sheep.
Then Helen, born of Zeus, replied to him, "He is Laertes' son, cunning Odysseus, raised on Ithaca, that rugged island, his shrewd mind brimful of tricks and plans." Antenor, a prudent man, broke in, "Woman, what you say is very true. Godlike Odysseus came here once before with Menelaus on a mission about you. I received them in my home as guest friends, and came to know the way they fought and looked. Both came to an Andaba of the Trojans, standing. Menelaus was broader in the shoulder, sitting, and Odysseus looked more chief-like. Then, when they wove their thoughtful words for us, Menelaus' speech was fluent. What he said was brief, but very clear, and not verbose, but to the point, although he was the younger. But when cunning Odysseus rose up, he stood there, staring down, eyes on the ground, and did not wield the scepter back or forth, but held it stiffly, like a novice. So you'd think he was some simple peasant. But he loosed that great voice from his chest, and the words that came drifting down like winter snows. No other man on earth could rival him, and we ceased to be amazed at how he looked. Seeing Aias the third, the Kehler asked, "Who is the other great, good Achaean man, above the rest by head and broad shoulders?" Long-robed Helen, godlike woman, answered, "That is huge Aias, the Achaea's Borma, with Idomeneus on the other side, among the Cretans, their captains gathered around. Menelaus often entertained him in our home, as a guest friend come from Crete, and now I see all the other Achaeans. I could point out every one and say his name, except two leaders whom I cannot see, Castor the boxer, Polydecus, my own brothers, sons of the same mother. Perhaps they didn't come from lovely Sparta, or they did come here in ocean-going ships, but are unwilling now to enter battle, out of shame, afraid of taunts because of me."
She spoke, but life-giving earth had buried them back home in Sparta, their ancestral land. Now heralds brought the offerings through the town, 2 lambs and cheerful wine, fruit of the soil, in a goatskin bag. Herald Edios brought the polished mixing bowl and golden cups. He urged the old man standing next to him, "Up, son of Laomedon, you are summoned. You are summoned by Trojan chiefs and Achaean sheathed in bronze, to come down to the plain and seal their oaths. Paris and Menelaus, loved by Ares, will duel with long assegais for their wife. The woman and her goods go to the victor. The rest must firmly swear an oath of friendship, and we live on in Troy while they go back to Argos and Achaia with its women." He spoke. The old man, trembling, gave orders to inspan the horses, and they hastily obeyed. Priam mounted and pulled back on the reins, with Antenor beside him in the chariot. They drove through the Scaean gates into the plain. When they reached the Trojans and Achaeans, they climbed down from the chariot to the ground, and strode among the Trojans and Achaeans. Agamemnon, incourse among men, and Odysseus sprang up. Proud heralds brought the sacred offerings, blended wine, and poured water over the chief's hands. Atreus' son drew out with his hand the knife that always hung beside his sword's great sheath, and cut wool from the lambs' heads. The heralds shared it among Achaean and Trojan chiefs. Atreus' son raised his arms and prayed aloud. "Great and glorious Father Zeus, who rule from Ida, Son, you who see and hear all, rivers, earth, and you furies down below, who punish any man for his false oath, witness and guarantee our trusty oaths."
If Alexandros kills Menelaus, Helen and all her goods belong to him.
Well, we must leave in ocean-going ships. But if Menelaus kills Alexandros, the Trojans must give Helen and all her goods and pay the Achaeans fitting recompense. A warning for men who are yet to come. If Priam and Priam's children should refuse to pay in full when Alexandros dies, then I shall stay and fight for recompense until I reach the very end of war. He spoke, slit the lamb's throat with a cruel bronze, then laid them on the ground gasping as life ebbed away, robbed by the bronze. Drawing from the mixing bowl, they poured wine into cups, praying to the eternal gods, and some Trojan or Achaean man would say, "Great and glorious Zeus, and other gods, whoever are first to violate the oaths, let their brains pour like this wine upon the ground, theirs and their children's, let their wives be slaves." They spoke, but Zeus failed to grant their prayer. Then Dardanian Priam spoke to them, "Listen, Trojans and well-breathed Achaeans, I am returning now to windy Troy, since I cannot bear to stay and see my own son fight a duel with Menelaus. Only Zeus and the other immortal gods know whose end of death has been decreed." He spoke, a godlike man, lifted the lance, then mounted and pulled back on the reins, with Antenor beside him in the chariot. The two of them drove off to windy Troy. Now Priam's son Hector and Odysseus marked out a piece of ground, and then took lots and shook them in a helmet to decide who would be first to throw his assegai. The impis raised hands to the gods in prayer, and some Trojan and Achaean man would say,
Great and glorious Father Zeus, who rule from Ida, let him who brought this suffering down on us die and sink to Hades his home. But let us swear lasting oaths of friendship. So they spoke. Looking away, great Hector shook the lots, and Paris sprang out at once. The men sat in their ranks, next to each his decorated armor and his horses. Then godlike Alexandros, Helen's husband, put his fine armor on about his shoulders. First, he placed around his legs the handsome greaves with fitted ankle guards of silver. Then put round his chest the body armor of Lycaon, his brother, that fitted him. He slung about his shoulders the bronze sword with silver studs, and then the mighty shield. On his head he placed the well-made helmet, its horsehair crest nodded frighteningly above. He seized an assegai fitted to his hands, and so too warlike Menelaus armed. When they had armed on each side of the throng, they strode between the Trojans and Achaeans, glancing fiercely, and amazement seized horse-taming Trojans and Achaeans sheathed in bronze. At close quarters in the market of space, they shook their spears, raging at each other. First Paris threw his shadowing assegai and struck the son of Atreus on the shield. The point bent back, failing to pierce the strong bronze of the shield. Throwing his spear next, Menelaus prayed to Father Zeus, "Inkosi, let me punish the wrongdoer, godlike Alexandros. Slay him at my hands, so men too come may think before they harm a man who entertains them as his host." He spoke and, balancing his long spear, threw, and struck the son of Priam on the shield. The weighty spear drove through the shield, pierced the decorated breastplate, and tore his tunic by the flank. But, twisting to one side, he avoided his black fate. Atreus' son drew his silver-studded sword, raised it, and struck him on the helmet ridge. The sword fell, shattered from his hand.
Michael, behind you.
Eyes raised to heaven, the son of Atreus groaned. "Father Zeus, cruelest of all the gods, I thought I'd punish Paris for his crime, but the sword broke in my hand, the spear flew from my grasp in vain and did not hit him." He spoke, ran in, grabbed the crested helmet, twisted it, and dragged him towards the Achaeans. The helmet strap below the chin caught his soft neck and began to choke him. And Menelaus would have won unending praise had Aphrodite not paid close attention. She broke the ox-hide leather strap so that the helmet followed, empty in his hand. Well in it, the hero flung it in among the Achaeans, and his comrades picked it up. Again he sprang forward, eager to kill Paris with his assegai, but Aphrodite snatched him easily like a god, shrouded him in mist, and set him down right in his scented bedroom. Then she went to call Helen and met her on the wall, with Trojan women round her. She caught Helen's perfumed dress and tugged it, looking like an ancient old Magogo, wool worker who carded fleece for Helen back in Sparta, and whom she dearly loved. Looking like her, Aphrodite said, "Come, Alexandros calls you to come home. He is in his bedroom, lying on the bed, in lovely shining clothes. You wouldn't think that he had come from battle, but was going to a dance or resting after dancing." So she spoke and roused the spirit in her heart. Helen knew the goddess by her graceful neck, desirable breast and flashing eyes. She stood amazed and spoke to her by name. "For God's sake, why try to talk me around like this? Do you want to send me off to some more distant town in Macedonia or Phrygia, where there is some favorite man of yours? Laios has beaten godlike Paris and wants to take my hateful self off home. Is that the reason you are here making trouble? Go, sit with Paris. Don't pretend to be a god. Never go back to Olympus, but still protect and sympathize with him until he makes you his wife or servant girl. But I will not go to him to warm his bed. I will be ashamed. All the Trojan women would blame me. My heart is already full of pain."
Philip.
Richard.
Oh, it's Richard.
Yeah, you please. In a fury, Aphrodite said, "Woman, don't make me leave you in my anger. My hatred may be worse than my strange love. If I make the Trojans and Achaeans fight again, you'll meet a painful end." So she spoke, and Helen was afraid. Veiled with her bright dress, she went in silence, unseen by the women. The goddess led the way. When they reached the house of Alexandros, the servants at once returned to their own tasks, while Helen entered his high-ceilinged bedroom. Laughter-loving Aphrodite brought a chair, god though she was, and set it next to Paris. Helen, daughter of Zeus, sat down on the chair. She said with scorn, not looking at her husband, "Back from the front, I see. I wish you'd died there, slain by a stronger man, my first husband. You used to boast that you were stronger, a better spearman than warlike Menelaus. Well then, challenge warlike Menelaus to single combat once again. But no, I shall not let you. Don't fight Menelaus, man to man. Don't duel with him. That would be foolish. You might go down beneath his spear." But Alexandros answered her and said, "Don't try to hurt my feelings with these taunts. Athene let Menelaus win this time. I'll win next time. God's helped me too, you know. But let's go to bed, make love, enjoy ourselves. I've never felt such strong desire for you, not even when I stole you away from Sparta, sailed off with you in ocean-going ships, and we lay down in Cranae and made love. Such lust and sweet desire flood through me now." He led the way to bed, and his wife followed. While these two lay on the patterned bed, Atreus' son ranged the crowd like a wild beast, searching everywhere for godlike Paris. And neither Trojans nor their famous allies could show Alexandros to Menelaus. Not that they knew and hid him out of love. No, he was hated like Black Death by everyone. Now on Kosi, Agamemnon spoke to them. "Listen, Trojans, Dardanians and allies. The clear victory goes to Menelaus. You must give Helen back and all her goods with her, and pay fitting recompense, a warning for men who are yet to come." He spoke. The Achaeans shouted their assent.
Woo!